Namaskar, Adab, Sat Sri Akal, good evening, and hello everyone. I, Deepak Srivastava, your host for today's session, and take the privilege to inform you that PSI has bring a surprise for you today, and we will be unleashing the surprise at the end of the session. And believe me, this is going to add value to you as a PSI community member. I invite you for the second Skillful Saturday session of season 2 with loads of learning organized by the Public Speaking Institute, the PSI community, with a vision to bring into eminent speakers from different fields who can add value to your life by sharing the knowledge and situations they have been through using the power of communication. May I request everyone to please add guest before your name if you are invited to attend the session. And before we move on, let me introduce you to the vision, mission, and objective of the PSI community. The vision of PSI is to have at least one public speaker in every home who can inspire the entire family. The mission of PSI is to create 1 million public speakers by the year 2030. You got it right, 2030. But yes, we will be achieving it more early. I am pretty sure about it. The objective of PSI is to promote the presentation skills, speaking skills, public speaking, effective communication, storytelling skills, and many more. And not just this, I take the pleasure to inform you that in the wonderful PSI community, we have professional speakers, public speakers, anchors, coaches, authors, trainers, influencers, startup business owners, professionals, educators, and you name them, we have them with us. So please do maintain the decorum of the forum. Do not unmute yourself unless you are asked or invited for, and keep your question and answers for the end. Before we start on and move on, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Author Sherry Sir, the visionary founder and managing director of Public Speaking Institute community with 2.5 lakh plus public speakers and professionals around the globe, and who is also working to pioneer and to give India its very first public speaking university. Wow! He is a well-known international public speaking coach and mentor and has created 18,000 plus public speakers and is on a mission to create 1 million public speakers by the year 2030. This also happens to be the mission of PSI. He is the founder and president of MS Talks India, another platform. This is not just a platform, this is a public speaking platform which has been given to 20,000 plus public speakers across the world and is 8-time international TEDx speakers, 4-time Joe Stock speaker, and author of international bestsellers. I would request everyone to please unmute themselves and let's give a big round of applause to Author Sherry Sir, the founder and managing director of Public Speaking Institute. Coming to the topic of today, what it takes to start the entrepreneur journey, as it is not just courage, but there are other aspects which are accountable as well. In order to learn and understand what all we should do or what all are the reasons one should avoid to lose the failure. Why? Because we need to learn that when you fail, you actually go into depression, or maybe you may not try to come back again. But yes, how we can avoid what all leads to failure. We have invited Mr. Mayenin Berry from Morocco to speak on it. And before I invite him to speak on this vital topic, allow me to share something about him with you all. Mr. Mayenin is a business baron and a certified public speaker of Cameroonian dynasty. He is a founder and president of the Bold Man Holdings, which is today a mother company to the Singan Properties, Soily, IND, leaders, engineering and consultancy services, as well as Kichi Furnitures. Oh, you see how things are flourishing under the valuable guidance of Mr. Mayenin Berry. His companies have, during the past 10 years, earned a great reputation in the local market, and today They are on a journey to penetrate the global market in the construction industry. Aside sitting on the top of the aforementioned businesses, the young maverick has done in during past few years unraveled his passion for public speaking and is becoming a great sensation in the public speaking industry. Please join me to welcome Mr. Berry. Welcome, Berry, sir. The stage is all yours. We look forward to learnings from you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this wonderful occasion to discuss very crucial topic that I feel are part and parcel of us. And today's topic is a very important one. We will be talking about startups, which I think we're all concerned in this topic. I think we are basically in a day-to-day life. We're involved in running a business in one way or the other, or at least we live close to people who are trying to excel in the business areas. So it's important for us to have a focus and a proper understanding of the startups. So basically, our concern today is we want to figure out or to know why most startups fail across the world, and that is our focus area. Many startups are failing. We start businesses, and then 1 week afterward, they fail, they collapse, and we should be conscious, or we should ask the question as to why these businesses fail. Now, according to a popular research team, Early Market, their projections that about 8 to 9 businesses collapse within the first 3 years of their existence, which is very problematic. So it means basically that businesses will collapse within 1 to 3 years. That's 8 of 10 businesses are most likely to collapse within 1 to 3 years of their existence. Now, in another popular business tycoon and author, he argues that about 95% of businesses to collapse within the first 5 years of existence. This is Jonathan T. Scottman in his book, The Guide to Successful Businesses. And another argument actually projects that this percentage is about 65%. But however be the percentage, or whatever be the percentage, our concern today is we want to understand why these businesses fail. And so this is our key focal area for today. For businesses failing across the board, and it's important for us to figure out why this is happening across continents and across the world. Startups, entrepreneurship is a very crucial topic. And so we want to figure out why more businesses are failing. Now, clearly, there are many reasons why these startups fail. And so it's important for us to classify them. But first of all, before we begin, what are startups? Startup businesses. Startup businesses are simply business operations or undertakings that are taken to render a service or product to the market areas. And so it's important so during this period for startups particularly, startups usually range between 1 to 3 years or 5 years of their existence. And within this period, they are most likely to face these challenges. Business failures are inevitable for startups. And so it's important for us to understand the reasons why these businesses do fail within this short time, within this time frame. Our concern, let us try to discuss this crucial topic and identify the challenges that are affecting these businesses. Yeah. So first of all, what are startup businesses like really defined? Startup businesses are simply any undertaking to resolve a particular identified problem in a society that may be offering a service or a product to the market. Now, the service, the market has to be defined for that product, which is very important. And so, how many startups do we have? Commonly, we talk about there are six types of startups basically in the industry. The very first one is the lifestyle startup. This is the most common one where everybody gets involved in this. Now, for instance, you're a professional, a speaker, per se, you're passionate about public speaking, which means you can run your business basically about speaking. And so you brandish yourself as a speaker. So you become a startup entrepreneur, creating a company or an enterprise around your passion. Another one is small businesses, which is simply another category of business, which has to do with providing basic needs. I may just operate a small business like a grocery store in my neighborhood, which is the basic aim or the basic importance for me to provide services and provide the basic needs of myself and my family. Another category of businesses we have the scalable startup. This is another category of business. Now, this is very common around the tech industry or software industry, where tech giants do create applications or software and sell to bigger companies who are in need of these services. This is another category of startup, which is common. Now you have the scalable, you have the scalable startup, sorry, the viable startup, which is another kind of service where these services or this product, this produce are produced and then offered to the larger market. There's a constant need for that. You equally have another category of startup, which you can talk about the large companies. This has to do with bigger companies, like bigger companies. You can name them KFC, McDonald's, and other companies you're thinking about, automobiles, and so on. And so they are in constant innovation now to have a place in the market, because with the marketplace of today has to do with a lot of reforms, and the technology coming in has dissolved, or there's a lot of disruption in the marketplace to actually change the way things work. So you will agree with me today that the same way we did business 20 years today, it's not the same. We cannot use those same methodologies today. And so the large companies are in constant struggle to meet up with the demands of today's market. Now, you take, for instance, a car or a vehicle that was manufactured 10 years ago, probably didn't make use of GPS and other factors. But today, because of competition and innovation, these companies are compelled to stay in the market, and so they must produce these services and meet up to the standards of today's society. The last kind of startup we're talking about today is the social startup. Now, the social startup is quite different from other kind of startups, which you would agree with me. People, I think there's a huge agreement as far as this kind of startup is concerned, because there's a belief that startups are meant to make money. But contrary to this belief, you have the social startup. This is mainly their main focus is to provide value or impact in society. Now, they have no interest in generating profit, which means you can talk about the non-governmental organizations. You can name them, a lot of them across the world. Now, startup characteristics, which is another focus for today. How are they different from regular businesses? Startups do make a lot of market analysis to actually identify the problem in the market. So for startups to go into the market, they must make a perfect analysis to actually identify that there is a solvable problem. There is a viable market for what they're going to do. Now, the second one, the vision in going to the market must be very viable, must be very clear, must be very defined. And the third, which is they must be a target market, they must be a target audience, a target customer base to use these services. We have the fourth one. The marketplace is a very vast place. So it requires a lot of expertise and understanding of the marketplace to be able to penetrate. There has to be some expertise in excelling in this area. So it's important for startups, for them to go to the market, they must make use of these key components. Now, another one is considerable feedback, which means you must get into the market and get feedback. The process of doing research. It's important for startups or for entrepreneurs to get an appropriate feedback from the market, from the society in which they intend to operate. Startups, of course, do have a company culture, which is the last process I'm going to share with you today. It requires they have a culture, which means the ethics of a company. That is how they differ from regular businesses. Startups will require a huge capital and other factors to find with. And another area we should look at today is what are startup failures? Startup failures, like I earlier mentioned, is what are startup failures? Startup failures are simply the inability of a business to continue to provide services or remain in the potential market. Now, and when does this occur? This happens when the investment or the money, the investment projected into the market by the entrepreneurs is less than the returns, or there's no profit. This may be evident through bankruptcy, other factors. And so our concern today is to understand why do startups fail. This is our key concern today. It is our business today. And I feel this is a very crucial topic, because I think in one way or the other, we are involved in these areas as individuals, as either be our family members who are focused on trying to create a business. So it's important for us to have an appropriate understanding of how startups do fail. Now, generally, you can classify these failures into 4 different areas. You may say startups can fall due to poor planning. Now, before a startup functions in the market, it is required that the company or the entrepreneur does an appropriate research to understand the market in which you're going into. And when this is not done, this is most likely to lead to failure. This is the key causing factor of startup failures. Another category, you have the financial planning, which has the resources in place. There must be a very defined strategy to manage these funds in order to keep being in the business place. The third one, which is poor management, it has to do with experience and competence of the team, the entrepreneur and the team, or the enterprise going to the market. the enterprise requires effective or good management skills to be able to stay in the marketplace. We have the fourth item here, which is you have the poor marketing. This is very important. For startups to be in the market, there must be an appropriate marketing mechanism. It requires that they have a system of marketing which is effective. You cannot do business when you cannot penetrate the market. Now, this has to do with having the basic management skills to stay in the market. This is very important for startups and entrepreneurs to understand these key areas. Now, to expand on this, we have chosen to discuss 15 crucial areas where I think it's important. I think the very first one we talked about the proper lack of market research, like I did earlier. Now, the principle for starting a business or running a business of any kind is, first of all, you must define a problem in a vast market where you. If I choose to run a business in Delhi, where you live, for instance, and I want to sell, for instance, think about anything. I want to sell cars, or I want to sell pumps, or whatever. The very first thing I have to do is I must define the market for that product. I mean, are there people who need those kind of services in India? I must define. If I choose to sell ice cream within India, or within Delhi, for instance, the very first thing I must do is, are there people who like ice cream, who consume ice cream? Now, where are they located? You must identify them and define what percentage or what sector of the population needs those services. And the second thing is you must identify that you must make sure there's money in the problem you're trying to solve. This is very important. You define the problem and then make sure there is money in the problem you're trying to solve, because you're not running a non-governmental organization, and so you require profit to function. Running a business requires a lot of money, and so it's important for you to appropriately define the marketplace, and then all of these factors must come into play. Of course, the second one is leadership. Leadership is the key factor. When it comes to running a business, I think the key factor has to do with managing different people. You must have the capacity to manage the different people who come into the business, your employees, your suppliers, and any other person who revolves around your business. The third one is your hiring. Hiring is a very common thing. I think it's the problem among most businesses. Now, you will agree with me, if you have to run a business today, you probably think about a friend or maybe a family member who comes in and do and run business with you. Now, it's important for you to define what qualities you're looking for in employees. And the tendency or the mistake I think most entrepreneurs or startups do make is you tend to find people you like or people you can relate to. But I think contrary to this, it's important for you to identify people who cover your weaknesses. Now, if for instance you're not good at speaking, you don't go and hire people who are not good at speaking at the same time. If you're not good in marketing, you must make sure you're hiring people who cover these areas you're not good in, to cover you for your weaknesses. This is very important. So for startups, this is a very important issue. And I think businesses, for instance, I think they should come and say, businesses are just like marriages. And so if you bring a wrong person into that union, this is most likely to fail. So it's important for businesses to resolve this problem of hiring employees and the people around employees. They must have the interest of the company and they're determined to make the business excel. Another thing is the lack of a competitive edge. Now, by competitive edge, I omit that. Now, let's say for instance, I will use another product. Let's talk about Toyota, for instance. Now, in your country, India, you're striving to you want to create an automobile company to compete with Toyota in the market. So now you know all of what Toyota does. Now, the very key thing you have to define in this area is what are you going to do that will make previous buyers of Toyota deviate their interest into your product or come to buy your product. That is what we mean by competitive edge. Now, if Toyota's cars consume more, I mean, how are you solving that problem? You might have to create a car that consumes less, or they have a lesser resistance to the climatic conditions or lesser climate effects. You have to create a competitive edge which outperform your competitor or the people in the present market. So if you're doing this, it's important for you to actually solve this problem. You must have a competitive edge in a global market, because there are a lot of people doing what you're doing. When it comes to doing business, I mean, there are a lot of people doing what you're doing. And so you must within yourself, I mean, try to answer this question: How do you intend to outperform or to do better than these people? This is about defining where they are, defining their weaknesses, and setting out to challenge them or to do better than them in those areas. Of course, the fifth one is the lack of funding. This is a very crucial area. I think most startups, I mean, you start a business plan, what you can say maybe 50 million Indian rupees, which is a common phenomenon. And then this is just a written document of your projections and what you intend to get from the market. But how do you intend to get this funds? This is a problem. And so along the way, the challenge is getting it. Nobody's going to give you 50 million Indian rupees to run a business. And this is a problem. And so businesses to start up, and then without the lack of funding, they're most likely to fail. This is a problem in the common market. Yeah. So, and the third one here, we have, lack of employees training. I think it's a very common phenomenon, because the tendency is we want to look for, most companies or most startups want to hire employees that have experience, for instance. But I think as good as this is, employees do require a lot of training to stay in the market. We live in a very disruptive economy where we have new things coming to the market every day. And so for you to keep being in the market, you must make out time, provide training courses or exercises to your employees to make sure they understand the current market and are able to keep up with the basic strategies that make business moving. This is a very crucial area for early startups, which means employees must understand the business you're doing or the business they're into and share the vision of the business. This has to do with a lot of problems. We talk about marketing, for instance. Employees must understand the basic marketing, approach, and the basic way to deal with customers. It's a very crucial area. And I think if businesses don't take this route, they're most likely to fail. So another thing is the lack of, most businesses not customer focus, which is the seventh point we're talking about today. Now, the tendency is when you're about to bring a product to the market without adequate research, like we cited earlier, you're most likely to think that the same reason you're making a product, you're bringing a product in the market, for instance, is the same reason your customers are going to buy. Now, this is what makes me a lot of times. I was talking to a friend. I am a part of a company where we do produce biodegradable bags, which is common. We do biodegradable bags. And then for a long time now, we've had to gain a very vast market, and we have a vast customer base. Now, what we began to realize was that most our clients basically buy this biodegradable bags, not because they understand the impact or the importance of environmental production or projecting a sustainable environment, which is our vision as a business. This is our business concept. We want to combat environmental damages that are caused by plastics or plastic waste in general. But the reason why our customers buy our product is because we customize their product, which means their product receive customized products, and that is basically why you buy. So when you're about to send a product to the market, you must think from the customer's perspective and not from your business perspective. Figure out why they should buy your product, and not providing more reasons why your product, but figure out why they should buy your product, or what. This is very important. So it's important for you to solve this problem. The eighth point, which I think is still another challenging issue about businesses, is sometimes you find entrepreneurs who start businesses, and within the first 1 year, your business is going, and there are signs that you might get better. And so they become a lot of managed cash flow issues to come in. You may want to buy maybe the latest Range Rover that's out in the market today. I mean, the least profits you've made, and there's no interest of expansion or whatever. So you tend to build a lifestyle or a business or manage resources that are tantamount to business failure. So when you're growing a business, you must have an aspect of cash flow management and know where your cash flows in and out, and you must be able to position your finances in strategic positions in the market and make sure that there's appropriate management of this fund. The ninth thing is the product quality, which I think the product quality is very important, because I mean you produce services for a client base, and it is fundamental or very important that your clients appreciate and recognize the quality of your product. Now, if your product is not good for the market, you want to stay in the market. The products of poor quality, of course, the customers will walk away. So you must make sure your product is up to standard for the market demand. This is very important for businesses, because a lot of times you just want to make money, but you don't think in the customer's perspective. What is the customer reaction? What do they think? Yeah. And the 10th point we want to talk about today is sometimes most businesses have these challenges of you rely on a single customer base for suppliers. Now, if for instance I'll think about to our company. We at Long we do biodegradable bags. Now, for sometime last year, we had challenges with the COVID situation. We had challenges getting the raw materials for our productions. And at some point, we had these products in the market, but when we went to our suppliers to get this product, the cost was, we had about 50% increase in the initial cost with buying this material. And we knew no other suppliers. We knew no other suppliers who could supply this product. We relied for a long time on this single supplier. And so with the frustrations and so on, we had to reframe our strategies to be able to procure this material. This is a common phenomenon because sometimes you work with a certain client, and maybe for some reasons you may have a misunderstanding somehow, and your client is supplier or your customer says, I no longer need your services. And if you depend on a single client, you agree with me, you're most likely to stay out of business. So this is a very fundamental, this is a very practical situation I'm narrating here, and I hope that you can relate to it. So the 11th point today is pricing problem. I think you must understand the challenge behind pricing the product, and you must take it seriously. You have to understand very much what you put in to be able to define what you expect out of the market. If, for instance, most people do, you have a product, for instance, which costs a particular amount, and then you must take into consideration what is the cost of procurement of raw materials, what is the cost of what is the transportation cost, what is the production cost, and what is the cost of what are all the logistics costs and the production costs. You must bring into play to be able to price a product. Now, sometimes you might have low price, which is consequential to the company, or you might have high prices, which is consequential to the customer. So you must understand the idea behind price and make sure you define this aspect. Now, if, for instance, you have a product, and let's say, for instance, you have a face cream product, a face cream or whatever, and the cost of production of producing that product, let's say, for instance, 1,000 Indian rupees. I'll use that example, and that's the cost of production. But then you realize you didn't take this into consideration. You didn't make the appropriate calculation or analysis, the cost analysis, or take a different of the cost analysis, and in the cost of selling your products, you put a price at 800 Indian rupees. Now this becomes a problem because your customer, you actually selling a product less than the actual value, and so the customers, this becomes a problem to the company. Sometimes it's the other way around. You may produce a product at 1,000 francs, that's the production cost, by the way, and you realize you project your product to the market at a cost of maybe 2,000 francs. Now you have a 100% profit, but your customer base, or the market is not ready for this kind of product. The cost doesn't is not viable to your present market. So it's important for you to understand this very well in the pricing your product. Make sure you understand the cost of production appropriately, and then you inject your profit into it and make sure, this is within the framework of your profit range. The 11th point is, of course, a common phenomenon. Now, there's a lot of advancement in the society today. There's a lot of, we call it disruption in the business. There's a constant change in the way things operate. And we're using Zoom, for instance, which I think is a technology that came into play. We can say maybe 3 years ago, we didn't know about Zoom. And so there's a lot of evolution in the way things happen. And so for businesses in the market, they must continuously innovate their systems or their products and services in order to remain in the present market. If this is not done, then you would agree with me, this is challenging. They cannot stay in the competing market. You have to constantly do research to stay in the competition. Now, I think I've been talking for quite long, but if you can relate to what I'm saying this afternoon or this evening, you can leave a comment so that we understand you're following quite well. It's very important for me to know your feedback as we talk. So you must be able to do appropriate research and effective research to be able to stay in the competing market. It's a very, very competitive market we're talking about today. And if the same systems you use today will not have a place in the market today. If you talk about using Zoom today, and you will agree with me 5 years from now, there'll be further technologies that are going to get Zoom off the market if there's no constant innovation to keep Zoom functional. That's the kind of market we're in today. So businesses staying in the market are constantly under innovation. You have the Tesla industry constantly under innovation, and in other industry, they are constantly innovating to have a place in the market. And the moment you stop, you're taking off, you're beating off the market. Yeah. The 13th point, and we talk about this, of course, the poor marketing and sales skills. You find that among most companies, which I think is like we did mentioned in the training area. It's very important for businesses, entrepreneurs, and employees to understand the importance of this marketing. You can have an amazing. There's a common saying that a good marketer a good market or a good salesperson can sell a bad product, but a good product cannot sell itself. So businesses, whatever kind of a business you're doing, requires a lot of marketing and sales techniques to stay in the market. Which is, if for instance, you produce, if your country, for instance, I'll take, for instance, let's just name a particular brand. Let's say Dell Computers, for instance, is produced in India. Dell Computers is produced in India. Yeah. And then nobody knows about Dell, but then it's a wonderful product. It's a wonderful computer. So nobody knows about Dell product. So the idea is, if there's no marketing, whatever be the quality of the product, it doesn't sell. So it's important for businesses to constantly revolve their strategies around marketing and sales to stay in the highly competitive market. Now, I hope you can relate with what I'm saying. Well, I expect so. So the 14th point we want to talk about today is, of course, you must know your competitors in the market. It's very important for you to know what your competitors, which is, if for instance, if I run, let's talk about any kind of business. I mean, think about any kind of business. If I run a business, for instance, I'll talk about automobiles again, or let me talk about airline industry. Let me talk about airlines. If I run an airline company in Cameroon, let me use Cameroon this time for me. Now, it's important for me to define or to know who in my country does that same business. Yeah, it's important. And if the moment you don't know about it, you're most likely to be beaten of the market, because you must constantly find out what is your competitor doing? What is this, my neighbor competitor, what is my competitor doing? I mean, you might just see that really during December, he brings down his flight by, he brings down his flight by 80%. Or maybe he offers particular services, or maybe home services, or whatever, maybe during transit, you offer, what are the services these companies are offering that you are not doing? You must be in constant research to understand to the depth what your competitors are doing. And if for any reasons you don't do this, you're most likely to get out the market. So whatever your competitors are doing, you must make sure you're trying to bring on your own strategy and to work either at that same level or better than your competitor. The 15th point, I think this is very, very important point. You must understand me. This is very important, very important. Now, business location is a very, very big, I think it's perhaps one of the top strategic decisions you can make about businesses. Understanding the market and which market sector makes what kind of services is very crucial. I'll give you a common example, for instance. You should have McDonald's in India or KFC. Now, look at their positions, for instance. Look at where they're situated around your country. And you think about it. Now, if these industries were situated maybe along the railways where you have trains, run along, and nobody stops by there, it's not an appropriate position for this kind of business, because you're going on the highway, for instance, cars, you have vehicles driving at 60 kilometers per hour or 70 or 80 kilometers per hour, and you have you have KFC there. Nobody stops to buy food and so on. So you realize how much it's important for you to have a strategic place in your business. Define your marketplace, where your customers are situated. If you run a library, if you run a library, for instance, think about schools areas. They need access to the libraries for constant research. This is very important. So defining a market for your product is a very, very important strategy for you as a business person. It's important. Now, these are 15 points I thought we should talk about today. Now, let's get into some other things. Let me share my screen again. A moment, please. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Now, we talked about 15 points. We cited 15 points so far. I don't know. I think we have 6 participants so far. Now, I want every one of you or any one of you, you may, random. What point do you think we should have talked about that we left out in the course of this presentation? Can you cite it? I just want to know if you may put on your camera and maybe say what you think. What point do you think we left out that we should have talked about in the course of this presentation? I think we cited 15 so far, but there are quite many. There are a lot of other points I feel we should have talked about, but we're working with this particular time frame, and we had to focus on these 15 points only. But there are many other areas I feel we should have talked about, because there are a lot of reasons why these businesses do fail every day. And it's important for us to go define and understand them appropriately to be able to keep going. So what do you think, we left out, if you're following, you may say what you think. What do you think we left out in the course of this presentation? I'm listening to you all. So if you think about anything, I want to know from you. What do you think we left out in the course of our presentation? I mean, there are many things. Is there anyone who has a point? Yeah.
Is there any role of previous experience in the past to do with the startup failure? Suppose I don't have any experience in the past. So can it be one reason for a failure of a startup? Or a person with a previous experience will have a sure shot success?
I think this has to do with market research and of course leadership. Which is, if you're leading a particular area, it has to do with you must understand the area. So this is similar to what you're saying, experience. You understand? So leading a sector, for instance, if I have to run a public speaking institution, for instance, like let's talk about Otto Sherry, for instance. He runs a public speaking institution. So there's an understanding of the business. You understand? So this is some sort of experience you're talking about here. But it requires that to run a business. You must have an experience of the business and a thorough understanding of business. So I think this is just about the same thing. And I don't. Is there another person who has something to say? The main of reasons. Yeah, we talked about. I mean, there might be. You can talk about the lack of sales. This is another challenging issue. There might be lack of sales. You can have economic reforms or market reforms. Now, your government might say, your government in India might say, no, we will no longer buy or import cars from the United States. You get it right? And then you have people who are present in these sectors who basically import cars, Lexus, and all of that from the US market, for instance. And so if the reforms to say that there will be zero importation of this product to the market. Now think about a company that is in this business in India. You realize this is just about a failure for them. You understand me, right?
Yeah.
Now another reason is businesses have to be, specific. You must try to, you must be very specific about the services you render to the market, and you focus on being the best in what you're doing. Because most companies, you're going to market. You want to do real estate. You want to do transportation. You want to do you want to do fisheries. You want to do agriculture. You understand? So this isn't a bad idea, but I think this can be different sectors, but then a single business is running this kind of services. It's not oriented. You understand? So you have to define your market and you focus on being the best in that area. It's very important. The other factors that can cause business failures, you can talk about. Most businesses sometimes resist the truth in the marketplace. Most entrepreneurs sometimes resist the truth in the marketplace. This is another failure strategy. If we say, for instance, you're rendering the services that's not very needed in the market, and you constantly resist accepting the fact that this is not needed. And so they tend to run away from answering very crucial questions in trying to run a business. You must define when you're about to run a business, you must bring in these things and answer the questions. Every question must be answered. It is very important for startups or entrepreneurs to answer these questions thoroughly, to stay in the market. Yeah, of course you can equally have pressures from the family or so on. Yeah, you can equally have pressures from the family to whatever. Maybe your wife and so on, family things, blah blah blah. You go off the business. Yeah, of course most businesses may still go off the market because of they start scaling up too early, which means you grow too fast and you're not able to control that growth. That is very possible for customers to have startups to have a very vast customer base they're not able to manage. They can still get off the market. Yeah, and most businesses may not seek professional advice. If you're starting a business, I think the very first thing you must do is to understand the people in that sector and try to get some basic information from them or seek advice from them as to what you're doing. Most businesses just go about copying others. You talk about an appellation called the Me Too business, which means you just see somebody maybe running, you just see somebody doing a particular business and then you jump into it. You don't understand the business at all. You just want to do the same thing. You see somebody, your neighbor or your friend goes into maybe the fisheries or agriculture, and you know nothing about agriculture, and you think it's making a lot of money, and then you just jump into that kind of business and you're doing agriculture. And you understand what I'm saying? So these are challenges most entrepreneurs will face. Yeah, And yeah, lack of personal growth, which means if you're into business, then you must constantly work on yourself. It has to do with your leadership skills, your personal development skills, and so on. This is a constant. This is a constant thing you must be doing. Yeah, and you must render quality customer service to customers. You must make sure your customers get the best out of whatever business you're rendering. This is very fundamental. Businesses, I think the misleading thing is that most entrepreneurs feel they're the boss in this business. But I think you should understand it. My advice is when you're about to start a business, you should look at yourself like a servant. You understand? Your clients are the kings and the queens you serve on a daily basis because they pay you for that service.
Yeah.
So you must treat them like your kings and queens when you're running a business because you save them and you must give them the quality service they pay you for. And if you try to look at yourself like a king or a queen, I think this is a problem in the marketplace.
Okay. Yeah, nice.
Entrepreneurs, yeah. Sometimes you might talk about market fluctuations and so on. This is another common crisis businesses will fail. Yeah, market fluctuations and a lot of others. This is a common situation businesses will fail. And yeah, it's important for businesses to actually define this. Yeah. So at this stage, I think it's important let us know. I think it's important for us to, why not get from you, perhaps you have a lot of questions to answer at this stage. I think we've gone through a lot of talking, and I think if you follow the conversation, that you must have some patience we want to answer. I think for the Q&A, it's important for us to answer those first questions before we conclude on this presentation tonight. So I think the floor is open for the question and answers. So I'll be very happy to hear your concerns and why not give your feedback on that.
Thank you so much.
I hope it's done. Hope your question is answered.
Yeah. Okay. It was elaborate and I could understand the case.
Great. Well, thank you, Mr. Berry. Well, you already emphasized on the market research. That is very crucial, obviously, for any entrepreneur journey. But what I actually feel is that in addition to this market research, what we should also do is we should conduct regular surveys to have the feedback about the product which is there in the market by us.
Very important.
That will also help us to innovate and understand that, yes, what we need to do next. What is your suggestion?
Can you come again, please? Your question again. Can you take over your question again?
I'm saying that in case if we also focus on the survey and feedback option, will that also help us to innovate and get something which is valuable for the clients?
Yeah, that's why I talked about. I talked about feedback.
Yeah, you talked about the market.
Feedback, which because you're serving a customer, you're a servant. You're a servant, for instance. Now, take for instance, you're a servant and your palace, for instance. This is you constantly have to understand what the king's like, what the king likes. You understand? You understand the king likes maybe have a cold shower or a glass of wine when you get in the evening. And so you must constantly find out what are those things the king like. That's your business as a servant. You understand? You must constantly find out what are those things the king like, and then you stick to provide these services. In the best of forms. So you're constantly responding to the feedbacks you get, and not necessarily the feedback. You go to them and find out what is. Sometimes businesses, good businesses have what you call the suggestion box, which is a very important area. Suggestion box and reviews. People come to the business and say what they think, and you just drop them. You don't need to mention your name, and you can drop them and say, I feel like your business environment is not clean. You understand? That's the feedback. And so for an entrepreneur who's running a business, you must take that decision. You must take the decision to solve that problem immediately. Now they can say that you take a long time to deliver your product. For instance, I buy for instance a cake from your shop, and it takes 3 days or 2 days for you to deliver a cake. That's a perishable product. Now you must solve that problem immediately. So you're constantly responding or listening to what these clients, your customers say, and solving the problem. That's why I said that's why I cited somewhere. You must be customer focused. You understand? Which means you must understand what your customers need, and you bend solving those problems. That's why I said your business must be customer focused. It's the same thing like customer care, which means you're concerned about what customers think and how they feel about the services you render.
Very
I
true,
hope
sir.
that answers the question. Yes.
Very true, sir. It is very important to have put your legs into the customer's shoes to understand what he needs.
Absolutely. Because if you don't think from the paradigm of the customer, you never stay in a business. You never stay in business.
Yeah.
If you don't think from the paradigm of the customer, you never stay in business. You must understand how they feel. And I feel like customer service is one of those areas where businesses are trying to excel in today. And if you're not working on customer service and those skills, then you're going to go out of business in no time.
Great.
So you must be constantly innovating to stay in the business. So I think another question. I expected more questions in this session today because I feel like it's a very crucial discussion, a very important discussion to have today. So,
well, people are already carried away with your presentation. They said that you have already covered all the points. Your 15 points.
I think
that is.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot more.
Yeah,
there's a lot more we have to talk about as far as this is concerned. Yes. Yeah. So
well, although you have shared a lot of things, but yes, so what I personally felt that yes, this will be very much required to make the impact. Market research, which you said was very important as per me as well. Yes, it is very important to understand the market and come up with the product which is valuable. Otherwise,
absolutely.
Yeah, otherwise it could lead you to fail. And then what you said,
Exactly.
poor leadership skills. Oh, that was awesome. Yeah. One leader has to believe himself in first. Then only he'll be able to motivate others too. And you focus on the employee training. That is also a very crucial part because regular training will keep your employee up with the competition. There won't be anyone else who can take the edge over you. And product quality, product quality, obviously, yes. I completely agree with you that quality speaks for itself. One should never give up on the quality. And one more thing which you said, that we should not rely heavily on a single customer or a supplier.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a very practical situation you can relate to.
Yes, that also I felt is very important because it is very important to need. And if you want to expand your reach, you need to join hands with others as well. And this could be only possible when you have more customers and more suppliers. This will open new horizons for you.
Very true.
And yes, market competition is obviously very important, as you said. With competition comes innovation. And as an entrepreneur, you can definitely emerge as the preferred choice in the market. Once you know that, yes, what competition is doing here. And what I liked about it, one of the point which you said is inappropriate location. And the example which you gave of a publisher was that you should not confine yourself to just reach out to libraries, but reach out to schools and other institutions as well. This will not only benefit the other students and readers, but it will also help in creating your brand value also. That was great.
Perfect.
I enjoyed, I liked it very much, sir. And this was very true. All the points which you have shared, these are very relevant. And if yes, one can start working accordingly and focus on these points, I'm sure that the chances of failure would be hardly none.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any question?
No, sir. No, sir. But I would love to say that what a wonderful session and insight of entrepreneurs. We actually don't know how to and where to start up, right? What are the barriers comes into the way? But the sir has explained so much in a way where it's easy to understand what are the barriers actually we find when we go for some kind of startups. So once again, thank you so much, sir, for a lovely and fruitful session. And I hope Nelson sir also feel the same. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for to be with me today in this session.
I also learned a lot, although
same here, same here.
I'm not into a business background, but still I love to learn, and I gained a lot in this session. Thank you, Perry sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to.
Thank you, Barry, sir, for your wonderful session. And with this, we come to an end of the session. And I would thank you, everyone, for being with us, and for the others who are going to watch this on our YouTube link. We look forward to your comments and your reviews as well. And last but not the least, please do take very good care of yourself. It is not just what you are going to do, it is what you think, because what you think, you become. So take care. Stay tuned for our next session. Till we meet again, second Saturday of next month. Keep enlightened, keep yourself motivated, and yes, have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye from us. Till we meet again. Stay
Bye-bye.
tuned. Keep smiling.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
all.
very, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful evening. Greetings from Cameroon once again.
Thank you.
Same here.
Thank you, Barry.